Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about the astrological compatibility between the zodiac signs Aries and Cancer. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. Well, anyway, two of the biggest disparity between these signs obviously is that Aries is a masculine sign. It suggests extroversion and being gregarious. And you have Cancer, and Cancer can be very introverted, introspective, much about the home. The home life may dominate the zodiac sign Cancer, and Cancer can very well be a homebody and very enamored with domestic interests. Now, the thing about this combination is that you look at these two, and Aries likes to be out. There really can be somewhat adventurous. Aries can be very outgoing. Cancer, being inside, they like to they might try to confine Aries from going out and doing things and being more outside, so to speak, as opposed to staying inside, I guess, and really and going places. These signs are incompatible by sign because they are square by sign. And the thing about this is that whether this is a platonic or it's a romantic slash sexual relationship, their differences are strong, and I think especially when you have the sign Cancer can be somewhat passive and really is not really always confrontational. You have Aries Sun, I'm sorry, Aries Sun, Moon, or Ascendant will speak his or her mind quite readily. Cancer might keep these feelings and these thoughts bottled up. If Cancer is incensed over something Aries did or didn't do, Cancer may often suppress these feelings and these thoughts and statements they would rather maybe blurt out. But Aries is not one to mince words. And Aries may sometimes, generally Aries I don't think is malicious. If Aries can be very blunt and outspoken, and sometimes may inadvertently hurt the Cancer's feelings. And I think that's something that could be really where you have the strong differences in the approach and in terms of communication. Now, Aries is also a type that has like the forgive and forget philosophy. They could have an outburst, but they generally will forget about it shortly afterwards. While if Cancer is on the opposing end of this, however, Cancer is not necessarily vindictive or vengeful by any means, but Cancer may really think about these things and brood about them for a long time, and they might feel that hurt for a protracted period of time. So I think that's another thing to look at when you look at this Aries and Cancer compatibility. And the thing about this is, in terms of like if it's a love romantic relationship, now Aries can be strongly about, like in sex, they may be like strongly about the sensation. Don't get me wrong, Aries can be very ardent and amorous as far as love goes, but I think Cancer wants a little more of that, the emotional rapport. And I think that's what they're seeking in terms of love, romance, and sex. They want to have that strong connection on a more of an emotional level. And Aries can do that, but I think Cancer does it more readily, I believe. So I think that's another disparity to look at when you look at these two when you look at these two signs in terms of compatibility. Now, you look at this as well, and Aries is the kind that likes to move forward. As I stated before, as far as like say a dispute takes place, Aries can maybe brush it off and forget about it relatively quickly. But you have Cancer can sometimes reminisce about things that happened previously, that reminisce about past hurts sometimes even, and ruminate maybe about them, while Aries may be inclined not to do so, and Aries is a little bit more progressive and wants to go further. the thing about this too is that on the one positive side I really look at in this is that Cancer can be very protective, and Aries may not be as protective, but Aries can have a lot of fortitude and courage, and sometimes can be downright fearless, and would stick up for the Cancer, whether it's in a platonic or romantic relationship. A lot of times when other people wouldn't. And so I do see that is one thing that could be a positive in this combination. But generally speaking, it's really not a good combination, but you do have to look at the other aspects when you're examining synastry, of course, and astrology as far as compatibility between others. Well, anyway, it's important to look at the aspect, if any, that is made between the Aries and Cancer person, whether this would be the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. Now, let's say in many cases they are square by sign, but in many cases you'll have a square aspect take place between the Aries Sun, Moon, or Ascendant and the Cancer Sun, Moon, or Ascendant. Let's say that the Aries Sun, Moon, or Ascendant is at 21 degrees. And then the Cancer Sun, Moon, or Ascendant is at 18 degrees. Well, that would form a square aspect, which would be adverse or adversarial, and could only maybe intensify kind of the incompatibility that exists to begin with between these two signs. And this is obviously something that can cause some problems, and really, it's really not a good aspect to have between two people in as far as compatibility goes. Now, and obviously very challenging. Now, let's say on the positive side, you can have an out of sign trine or sextile aspect take place between these signs. Now, let's say, for example, someone has the Aries Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at 1 degree, and the other person has a Cancer Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at 29 degrees. Well, that would form an out of sign trine aspect, which could actually be positive and auspicious, and you could have a little better integration and blending of these signs than otherwise indicated as far as compatibility between people go. And even though you still could have certain differences due to the fact that they are square by sign, having a positive aspect between the two, I believe, can help that out a little bit. Now, you can also have an out of sign sextile aspect take place between the two people with these energies. Let's say that a person has the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at 28 degrees Aries, and the other person has the Sun, Moon, or Ascendant at 2 degrees Cancer. That would form an out of sign sextile aspect, which could also be auspicious and positive, and the person may have a little better integration and blending. The two people may have a little better integration in blending as far as compatibility goes than is otherwise indicated, even though the two signs are still incompatible by sign, and you got to factor that into the equation. But at the same time, I believe having a positive aspect that would exist between the Aries person and the Cancer, that would help maybe alleviate to some degree maybe the negative energy, which is just in general by the two signs as far as their compatibility with each other by themselves. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for astrological compatibility between Aries and Cancer. And stay tuned next time, where I'll be talking about astrological compatibility between Aries and Leo. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.